topic is very, very important to everybody right now. And I know here we've got a panel of women, but I do believe this is affecting everybody, children, men, women, and everybody within our environment. I am a manager director of a leading communications firm, but I'm also a mother of two young boys. And, you know, I've experienced the juggling of work-life balance even prior to the COVID situation. But I think this past 2 months has really pointed out that there are many, many things that we dreamt of, we thought would happen, you know, virtual working is now within a very short space of time become a reality. And Mr. Jamal's point about Twitter is an example of how we can maybe learn from this experience and some of the positives that could come out of this and some of the new opportunities, but we're also going to explore some of the challenges and how we can help one another, how we can learn from one another to get through this huge change in our lives. And so I'm excited later in the panel, we are going to obviously speak to our 4 speakers who come from a mix of variety of different working environments. As we said, Rafia is already back at the office, and we've got banking, and we've also got private sector insurance, but also from the mental health perspective as well. And we are going to be launching also a poll, an online poll, as we go through this over the next 20 minutes, so that we can actually get all of your feedback and understand how you're feeling about work-life balance. So without further ado, I'd like to kick off with my first question, and I'm going to ask Hind, really just to give your own perspective, a little bit about where you work, what you do, and what does work-life balance mean for you?
Thank you, Camilla, for the introduction. My name is Hind Al Attar. I come with a vast experience of 17 years in banking, mainly in human resources. I've been with Noorbank before it started up, and I was there till it developed and became much more bigger than what it used to be. Throughout the journey of those 17 years, human resources play a vital role, not only in banking industry where I was. I think it's a backbone for any organization, because it shapes the way we work, we think, and how we can make our productivity of our employees even more. So we are always on the lookout for new ways of how we can look at increasing productivity, increasing revenues, increasing the motivation and engagement. So to do so, we found out in the last few years that people are asking more, they're demanding more. The technology is becoming better, our fintech is becoming better, everything is becoming more easy for remote working. So 1.5 years back, when we had a new change of management, that was one of the first things when we did our staff engagement survey. We found out that we had had a lot of issues in terms of the stringency about how you work in an ambience that can't make you a lot to give out a lot in terms of the productivity. And we scored around 6 scores out of 10, and it's not a very good score. So what we started doing so around 2 years back, we had flexibility about you choose your working hours that accommodate you. It's good, it suits the employee, of course, with the agreement with the employer. The employee had doctor's appointment, attend school functions or parent-teacher meetings. We always had that flexibility, how to manage, either go to come to work and then attend those important events, come back to work, or after that you can continue working from home. We also introduced a formal, like an application where an employee can even come and they could come and request for a part-time job, or working from home for a certain time, working on a project, or needs a remote concentration to be more productive. All those things really developed and made our employees be more loyal to us. it showed in our employees' recent engagement scores with it reached more than 8.5 scores in a span of 1.5 years to 2 years. That's a jump of 2.5 points because of these small things that we started introducing. So when all this, when the COVID happened, it wasn't a surprise for us, or it wasn't a new practice, because we had already introduced about work-life balance, working from home, and all those perspectives just became easy for us to implement because we had a choice and we were doing it before the COVID-19 forced us to do it.
Fantastic. So I love the fact that you had already proactively introduced flexible working into your business. And I know it's something that not all companies are doing. And I think your results there from your scores prove how beneficial it has been within the organization. I wanted to actually then see how this concept and understand if there were any other challenges that were experienced by yourself, Ms. Rafia, within your business and your personal life as well.
Good morning. My name is Rafia. I'm working with Dubai Islamic Bank for almost 16 years. Basically, my experience is in the banking, and I'm glad that I'm part today of this session. Camilla, when we discuss the challenges, I believe being a female with a lot of different responsibilities as a mother, as a sister, as a wife, as a daughter, having this responsibility toward the society and toward the work, maintaining the balance between your work and your social life and duties would be the main challenge each female is facing in the work life today, whether it is in a private company or is it in a government. But basically, in this pandemic situation, a lot of institutions had proved their preparation in maintaining a very well-structured working from home, at least supporting the female to have that balance, being in home doing her job with a proper access to the systems and supporting her children or her brother's sister in maintaining their e-learning. So if we talk about the main challenge is how well you can maintain the balance between your work and your social responsibilities and other responsibilities in the society.
I think, as you said there, you've identified the key challenge, which is in the word balance. And I think even with the softwares and the more proactive approach, one of the biggest challenges is the responsibility, balancing that responsibility and trying to ensure that we can succeed in all areas of our lives. And we will, yeah. Sorry,
and it's the most also stressful and challenging thing about it is to maintain it always at a perfection level. So this creates another level of stress. So you do it today, but tomorrow due to different circumstances, you are not able to. So it becomes very stressful that yesterday went very smooth, today it's a little bit a juggle. So to maintain it also on the long term, this might be also a challenge.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. And I think that's something that we're going to ask in our poll questions to everybody, to the audience. And that brings me to our next speaker, who actually looks at stress and anxiety. And I think I'd be really interested to hear from Mona now. If you tell us a little bit about yourself and your work, and also how have you seen, what's the experiences you've had over the past couple of months through this pandemic, and how does that compare with prior to this? Is it similar, or are there differences that you've witnessed?
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Mr. Jamal, and thank you everybody for organizing this, and I'm very honored to be part of it. So my name is Mona Abdurrahim Santel, and I'm the owner of Mind Your Power, which is a consultancy that is actually focused a lot on that mental aspect that you just spoke about. So we've been working since 2005. We've been working a lot in the market here. And whilst at the beginning, when we do training, when, you know, a lot of trainings are specialized, are focused on leadership, on customer service, etc., we always had that aspect of what's the psychology behind it, what's the mental health, as you called it, what's inside the person. And the difference is that, yes, we were a lot called to do leadership trainings, etc. Now, since about 2 months, the inquiries have been more and more about things like topics like homeschooling, for example, from companies, not only from mothers and parents. The thing is, we are working in a system. We are part of a system, whether it's the whole country that we are in, or whether it's the organization, or whether it's the family, or whether it's ourselves. We are part of a system, and we cannot neglect that. We cannot only focus on, for example, how is my productivity of work? Because we all know that if you have a sick child at home, or if you have a water leak at home, your productivity at work will also decrease. So it is, we need to look at it holistically. And nowadays, we're seeing that people are not managing that so well, and the stress levels are going higher just because they're not used to it. Now, having said that, I have seen a huge difference between 2 months ago and now. People who we've been working with, people who we've been asking, they were very shocked at the beginning, and that's the natural curve, you know, when something new happens, that at the beginning we are just in that state of shock where we say, no, I cannot deal with that. And now when we talk to people, a lot of them are starting to see the advantages, are starting to see that, yes, there are things that are better. Still, they don't exactly know how to manage it, and that's where I've been doing a lot of training, a lot of coaching, because like I said, it's not only the communication between you and the customers, it's the communication between you and your team members. It's how do we handle all of that also within the system of the family? And lastly, like I mentioned before, how do I deal with it internally? And that's a very, very, very big portion of it, because all starts with the attitude and with the inside.
And I would love to ask you on that topic, because I think it's great that if companies are being proactive and coming to you about bigger picture things like homeschooling, but as you said, there's still a lot of individuals out there who are having to deal with things on their own. And it would be interesting to know if there's ways, if they can't, you know, go to specialists for help, but if there are any tools that they can take and tips for them, you know, selves to, you know, go through this anxiety. Is it about time and patience, or is it about adjusting their frame of mind?
Thank you very much for that question. And it is really important, because a lot of times we depend on others to make us feel better and to improve our well-being. And it is a frame of mind. We have to start with ourselves to say, okay, how can I see this in a positive way? Every single situation we are in has two sides. We always can look for disadvantages, but we can also look for the advantages. And whatever we look for will affect us more and will make us more productive. Stress is bad. I just want to say it in one word. Stress is, well, stress can be good if you're in an emergency situation, but let's say the stress that many people are going through right now is nothing that will help you, neither at work nor also within your health and for your body. So yes, now with regards to your question, your first question, yes, there are tons of webinars out there, tons of people who are helping, who are telling you how to deal and how to cope with this situation. Myself, we have at Mind Your Power, I have started on the 1st of April. I had a webinar every single night where I either spoke myself or invited other speakers from the industry, from the health and well-being industry, to speak about how to cope with anxiety, stress, how to breathe properly, you know, simple things like breathing or laughing or seeing things in a more positive way. Such simple tools that everybody has. However, we need to be reminded of them, especially in these times.
I love that. Thank you so much, Mona. I'm going to move now to Tracy, because I'd love to hear, Tracy, you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you work, because I believe your company has done some amazing things to support its staff with mental health. So tell us a little bit about yourselves, Tracy, and where you've been working.
Yeah, thank you. And it's a pleasure to be part of the panel today, and also to learn from other amazing, you know, ladies and companies and what they're doing in terms of supporting their staff and also adjusting, because in this situation, everybody's doing the best that they can. I've been in the region for 19 years. I'm originally from Australia. I have 2 young boys. And my background has predominantly been in aviation, hospitality, manufacturing, and I've been with AXA the last 5 years. And prior to COVID, we as an organization, we had already embarked on sort of building a holistic wellness culture within AXA. So that was focusing on not only the mental health, the physical well-being, but also financial well-being, and looking at how can we support our colleagues with that infrastructure. And one of the things that we found that was important, and it's really served us well in this transition that we find ourselves in today, has been focusing on mental health and looking at not only, you know, within the HR team, being ambassadors to being able to recognize signals, but also how are we developing ambassadors within the organization. So we did some upskilling around mental health and a certification to enable not only HR, but key ambassadors within the business to be mental health first aiders. And that gives them a great opportunity to recognize the signs when people are in stress, and also to look at how we can put the relevant sort of strategies in place to support them. And that has been something that's been really valuable, because it's been a challenge for everybody. It's been an adjustment, and whether you're a mother, whether you're a father, you know, whether you're a student, everybody's dealing with this situation in their own way. And for us as an organization, it's been about what kind of infrastructure can we put around that to help and support. So in terms of also some of the learning that we've been doing, it's really been around working parents. So Mona, to your point, how can we adjust and support working parents in balancing their work responsibilities? And I think the most important thing during this time is really structure. It's really about how do you design your day to help yourself, and how do you give yourself a break and also realign expectations. You can't do everything all the time, be all things to all people. So looking at how you can adjust your day and break it down and make it sort of easy, make it something that works for you.
Thanks, Tracy. I think that's fascinating. And especially as EIBFS is focused on training and learning and development, I love the fact that you actually trained your own staff to have awareness of mental health and spot issues, because I think that's really progressive. And I remember when we spoke earlier, you also said you had like a hotline, I believe, or there's other tools within your organization for people to share their thoughts.
Yeah, so we have a mental health hotline, our employee assistance program, which is a 24-hour opportunity. We have mobile doctors online as well, so if people need to access medical advice, there's opportunities there for them to do that. And we also have that confidential line within HR that if people do want to reach out, they can. And if they don't feel comfortable reaching out to HR, they also know who the ambassadors are in terms of the mental health practitioners or certified mental health first aiders that they can talk to.
I suppose also the fact that your business is actually in touch with medical providers all around the world. I'm sure it's you have access to these specialists very easily. And that's a great advantage that you're able to bring, I'm sure, to not only your staff, but maybe also other areas as well.
Yeah, and I think it's, and I think that what it has enabled us to do is making sure that we are putting the right things in place that support the staff. It's not just HR, you know, thinking about what we feel is important. It's about really what is important for our colleagues.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to continue asking the questions, but before I do that, I'm actually going to invite everybody to take part in this online polling that we've put together, and I believe it will come up on the screen soon. And there is 8 questions that we've designed that to understand from the audience, like some of their own thoughts and experiences they're having themselves. Now, don't worry, take your time. We've got, you know, like you can take 10 minutes if you need to answer these questions. But in the meantime, we will carry on talking, and people can then look through these questions and feel free to give your feedback, and then we can use them to discuss later. So what I wanted to do is just come back to you, Hind, and just understand, obviously, in your own work experience, but also personal, I'm sure, what do you feel are some of the, you know, the advice or tips that you would give to professionals or to people that are trying to juggle between what they need to do work-wise and life, that you, through whether you advise at work, through your teams at work, or in your own life?
One of the best advices I would say is it's a quote in Arabic that we believe in, which says خير الأمور أوسطها, which means best things are which are moderated in the middle. And that says about your work-life balance, which means like everything you do, try to do it with a proper balance. And I think one of our panelists mentioned that as well. Anything when you go overboard and you do it excessively might hinder your stress levels. Like when I mentioned, it might hinder your productivity, even your engagement. I think it's very important to give each aspect their importance in its right time with the right place. Family has its own, of course, you need to balance between your family, your needs of the kids with their homeschooling. They are also going through this new change phase that they are accommodating, and we need to be there for them. It goes with your family, be it your husband, your parents, your siblings, your social life, your commitments to your country, and your requirements about work. What I have seen a lot of negativity that has been occurring very recently. The companies who are giving people to work from home, they're actually taking full advantage of them being at home, and they are excessively making them work with no proper working hours. So they send them requests or work requirements to be done late in the evening, at night, and people are becoming more frustrated. The beauty of this tool is, if we want to use it correctly, it's to use it same as how we would be using it at work. So at work, people clock in at 8, they clock out at 4, and so they can give their social life, their family, their kids that time. But what is the point of giving that flexibility for people to work from home, but you bombard them with the work and not the right times and all? It has a negative effect on the person themselves, and even with the family around them, and your productivity won't be the same. So this is a very important factor. I'm sure a lot of our participants may be facing it, but these are the complaints I've been receiving from people from a lot of different companies. I don't know what's your views on this, Camilla.
I think you're absolutely right. I think the challenge when you're in a home environment is you're always on. It's hard to separate, and it's hard to find ways to put barriers on your own time. And actually, I was just looking at some of the chat questions I thought I'd bring up, because firstly, one of the people has put an idea for coping with anxiety is yoga, which and I'm sure we can discuss some more ideas like that later. But there's also one person who's saying, that she's already at work, not working from home and still struggling. And Rafia, you are obviously back in the office from this week. So can you talk to us a little bit more about how does it feel? Do you find that it's giving you that structure being back in the work environment, and you feel that that is helping for work-life balance?
Camilla, Hind have mentioned something just a while. She have mentioned, like, when we are at home, the expectation is very high that we are reachable anytime, we should reply anytime. And this is the thing which I really want to stress on, because when we used to work in the office, people mentally are set that all the responses will be during the working hours. As soon as it is 4, there is no more stress to get any answer. But we have missed this when we start working from home. Now, it is working back from the office is not something that is really putting things in form, but it's a norm that we should use to it, because definitely at a point of time, we will go back to office with setting certain precautions, having our masks, our gloves, while we are doing our duties, maintaining the distance, making sure that the workforce is at the standard that the government have set. So it's good for me. It's giving me a bit of relief to come back to the office during Ramadan also, because the working hours is very less, and we are coming, Camilla, to discuss specific topics. We are not doing our daily work from the office, but we are setting 2 days a week or 3 days a week, depending on certain things that need to be delivered, in a way or another, which require us to come and sit and discuss. So we are trying to go back to the norm, inshallah, slowly. Is it helping? Yes, it is helping. But it's not sorting out the entire challenge, because I'm still working from here and working from home while monitoring what's happening there, because exams are going on now. So inshallah.
Yes. I think, as you said, you're absolutely right. It even though you're back in the office now, I think it's still not the way it used to be. It's still a hybrid, I think, that people are now going to be dealing with, because of the safety restrictions of the 30%. Yeah. And so it's gonna take time for us to adjust. I wanted to ask, I've seen another, and you mentioned there about school exams, so I'm sure your children, that's another struggle. And I've seen on the chat group, people are asking if there are any tips or tools on how to manage, I've got it here, it says, we're working more than required because of being at home, unable to finish work on time, and juggle everything. So Mona, have you got any kind of advice or tips on how people can try and manage the juggling act, and achieve, like, not being too overwhelmed by the requirements on them?
Absolutely. So first of all, let me go just back to what Hind said a moment ago about, we are working later hours. When we went home, we just finished at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock and went home. If we really look at it, it is just, again, a shift in how we see it, in the attitude that we look at it, because we used to go home and then start working with our kids and, for example, helping them with homework or whatever we needed to do at home. Now everything has shifted. So we might start later, but also work later. So within a big tip that I usually give when doing a little bit of time juggling is include the family in your work agenda, because we are in that environment now. I cannot say anymore, I have a meeting from 8 to 9, another meeting from 9 to 10, another meeting from 10 to 11, because something at home will interfere with it. So take the time on your agenda to plan that, because you are in that environment. So this is one of the things that is very important. And then that flexibility is also important, to say, I will start later and I might even take a meeting at 7 p.m. because you know what, that's the time when my kids are doing something else. So I am free and mentally free to attend that call in a very relaxed manner then. So I think that flexibility is really important for us. Now, having said that, it doesn't mean that we should be available 24/7. It doesn't mean that we should be bombarded with emails and attend to every call after 7 or 8 or whatever our time limit is. So my biggest advice that I always give people, not only women or parents, is be selfish. Now, a lot of people say, no, but I have to do everything for someone else and my kids are my priority. If you put your children first, if you put everybody else first, you will be stressed. So I keep repeating it, be selfish. Selfish has a very negative connotation to it. However, if you don't have the strength, if you are not relaxed, if you are not motivated, you cannot give it to others. You cannot do your work productively if you are not happy and relaxed inside of yourself. So start by doing something that also matters to you. You know, when we travel, how they say, take the oxygen mask first and then give it to your kids. That's exactly what we need to do also when we are in that environment now. So start doing something by yourself. Well, the family and also the team members and everybody at work will notice that too. So when you take the strength, when you take anything that will make you feel happier, then you are able to and motivated enough to give your full productivity when it comes to work too. I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah.
Oh, I love that advice. I think the selfish thing, as you said, it's had a bad reputation, that word, for far too long, and now there is I think you're right, it is a very important point. And I've actually got another question that's just come up on the chat that I think might Mona, you might have some answers. Is somebody's been away from the office obviously for the past 2 months and is about to start back at work next week. Is there anything they can do to prepare themselves? They're concerned that it will feel different and it will be strange. It might not feel comfortable. Obviously, there's health concerns as well, of safety. Any advice you should give people who are preparing to go back to work?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people do, and it's again another change, and that's why it is uncomfortable again. So we just got accustomed to working from home, and now it's suddenly, okay, now I can go back, but now, you know, it's a change again, and people are reluctant to change. We are always happy to stay in our comfort zone. However, if we look at it from the psychology point of view, when we stay in our comfort zone, we cannot grow. So every time we change and something new happens, we learn. There's a lot of learning experience in every single situation we're going through right now. So whether it is at home or going back to the office, of course we need to adapt again. We need to adapt to a different situation. Also, I was talking about the system we live in. So our family got used to, oh, we're at home now all the time. So now it's again a change for them. So, you know, another tip that I can really give is plan. You have many labels as women. We have, you know, we are not only whatever we are, whatever our title is at work, but we are also a mother, we're also a wife, we're also a daughter. We have all of these labels. And a lot of times we limit ourselves with these labels. Now, understand that we can be many, many things. We can be a mother, we can be a CEO, we can be leading a team, but we can also be just a wife. I don't mean just as, you know, as something demeaning. It's just we have several roles we can play. And then it is also important to acknowledge, what am I really good at and where are a little bit my weaknesses? I cannot be good with everything. I cannot be a wonderful leader at work. I cannot be a wonderful salesperson and at the same time be a good teacher. I'm not a teacher. So these things will have to maybe be a little bit, you know, or I have to give them to others. Yeah. So I don't know.
I think you're right. I think what you're saying as well is try not to be a perfectionist, which is alien to a lot of us. And I think Rafia mentioned that earlier. I actually just wanted to take that topic of preparing to go back to work to see, Tracy, Mr. Jamal mentioned that the Twitter have announced that they are actually not even going to, you know, they're going to move away from the office environment. And I know that, in fact, a friend of mine, the same thing, their office, they've decided to close it for the next 6 months. How is your company? Are you being progressive as that, or are you doing a hybrid and people are going to be moving back into an office environment?
Yeah, so I mean, we will be doing hybrid. There will be some teams that will be going back into the office, and eventually we will all progressively make that step. Where it makes sense to work from home, we will still continue to do so. So even going into COVID, we had remote working, you know, for all of the teams. So a lot of people at least worked 1 day a week from home. They had staggered or flexible working hours. So that practice will continue. But we are making the transition back to the office. And what we're doing to support the colleagues is giving as much information as possible about what we have put in place to protect them, what they can expect when they are in the office. If people do, and we do have some teams that have expressed that they are not comfortable yet going back to the office. We've also staggered our return to work based on certain populations. So if you're a working parent, you know, you will be one of the last people to sort of make that transition. If you have any health concerns, you know, then you will continue to work from home. So we're really looking at it, you know, across a very individualistic sort of way so that we can make the best decisions for the staff. But, you know, it will be slow and it will be adhering to the guidelines that's been set out by the government, and we will just manage to optimize the situation as best we can with as much support as possible.
Interesting. And I think that's as you said, I think, have you had feedback, I mean, in terms of people wanting to come back, or is it, as you said, like when you're looking at, you know, working mothers, are they the ones that are requiring to stay at home longer because of the homeschooling?
It probably depends on which working mothers you're talking to. There are some people that really, you know, it's a real, you know, 50-50 between people wanting to get back to a sense of what they feel is normality, but also being concerned about, you know, their welfare and the welfare of their families. So it really is a 50-50. I think that there is some, for sure, apprehension because, you know, they're stepping in from a very secure sort of home situation back into the office where there's many different, you know, variables. It really is mixed. It really is mixed. And for us, it's just making sure that we are aware of all of those concerns so that we can address them. I mean, right down to, you know, if people are feeling anxious, it's really understanding, okay, what are you anxious about returning to the office? How can we support you? And it's different measures for different people. But the views and the feelings are very mixed. There are some people that are quite keen to get back.
Yeah. And I think on that topic about the mixed views, I'd love to just tell the audience, if anybody has not completed the poll yet, please do, because we're soon going to try and put together the results. There have been some interesting questions there asking people, you know, do they want to go back to work? Have they found that they are, you know, able to juggle things working from home, and how much support they're getting from HR as well. I wanted to also, I think what's the biggest challenge with some companies is when you have a large number of staff. Obviously, in the banking sector, we know that there are many employees to consider, and there must be a lot of challenges involved in that. Hind, what would you find? What are some of the challenges in your experience when you were working at Noor Bank, when you've had to deal with such large numbers, and also you know, how did you find success when you communicated new policies such as your flexible working? How did you see the best approaches with things like that?
If you ever want to launch something new or introduce a change, these things usually do not, the nature of a person is they don't like change, even if it's for the positive. So the best way to do is one word: communicate. I think consistent communication is key to solve problems, to make people realize what they are getting into it, to understand more perspective of whatsoever. And it's not just one-way communication. When you have different audiences, different people at different levels, working in different departments, you need to be creative in terms of how you communicate to what kind of audience. For example, if you have people who are like sales staff who are mainly outside, you cannot call them into a meeting and communicate to them about the policies or perspective. Maybe for them it's easier to go through an email or maybe a town hall. So it's very important when managing any, it's not only from HR's perspective. I think it's more of whoever's managing the communication is, it's not how good or bad your policy is, it's how well you communicate is, you can get the true value of the delivery of those kind of perspective. So we at Noor Bank earlier, what we did is whenever we launched a new policy or a new practice or something new in a system, we always made sure that we communicate to from the top to bottom, be it from the CEO to our management team to the line managers, and educate HR itself, is we need to always communicate. And it's not you can communicate once and then you leave it forgotten. Consistent communication is the key. So we felt whenever we communicated more and we communicated into different aspects, there was always better results than when you just launch a policy, no matter how good it is. If it's sitting in a folder in your desktop, it will always just be sitting there unless you communicate and show people what's the value they get. So I believe consistent communication is the key to any success of new policy, new changes whatsoever.
No, I couldn't agree more. I really think you're absolutely right in terms of communication being one of the most important tools that we can do as we sharing information with staff. Now, I'm actually looking at the polling, and I think you can probably also see the results. I'm not sure if it's only me or if everyone can see the results. So we've had 166 people complete the polling, which is fantastic. And I thought it'd be good to look at these and go through to see, right, there we go. Attendees can now view the poll results. So what's very interesting in terms of question number one is people seem to be overall, there's quite a large number that are satisfied and also very satisfied, as well as neutral. So what I'm seeing here is that actually there's quite a large a positive feedback here in terms of people experiencing work-life balance since COVID began. I think based on these findings, I'd love to hear if anybody has any feedback on what they think, if that surprises them or not. What do you think, Rafia? Are you able to look at the poll results? Is Rafia there? She's on mute, I think, at the moment.
Yeah. I'm looking. I was looking to the poll.
Yeah.
I feel the feedback is very realistic. It's very close to what we are doing every day. When you look, when you look into the first question, it shows you that people are basically neutral, satisfied, very satisfied. The percentage this have a high comparing to others. People are having more than 3 hours of spent with the families, which is also a healthy thing, which we don't earlier were able to count. So I think basically I have just viewed it very quickly. It's very close to what we are experiencing on daily basis. In the current circumstances, those answers are coming from a community which is experiencing almost the same things that we are experiencing, working from home and identifying those challenges. So I can see that it is,
I think also you go down to question 8, and people given the choice to decide to work from home or office, and it's amazing how it's nearly 50-50. So it goes to show there's a real it's very mixed, and a very balanced mix of people that do want to go back to the office versus those that want to stay at home. In your role, obviously working in HR, does this information, would it help, has this experience been something that you will take as a management team to see how you will build future HR policies for your business that you work in?
If we just recall yesterday's tweet, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed have sent yesterday, he have mentioned that in this COVID pandemic situation, there is a lot of things to be done to make organizational more fit, more slim, more dynamic, and to work with any situation, or to be able to upfront any situation that the country would face. Now, this gave us an opportunity to look into our policies, and I'll speak specifically about banking. Because in the government have put a lot of initiatives, a lot of policies that allow the female to have a good work-life balance. For example, they have given the mothers a flexible working hour on the first day of schooling, which allow the mother to accompany her kids to the school, which have really a great impact on the mother and on the child. They have created some nurseries in the government institutions, which allow me to accompany my infant or my child, my toddler below 2 years, which give me a relief of the stress and will allow me to have better productivity. They have put certain initiatives which make the work environment more dynamic and attractive for a woman to work in. I think this pandemic situation had allowed us to look better into our policies, to come up with better circumstances, look into a lot of aspects. It's not only cost, it's about people. People can work better from home, and they have proved this. People can produce while they are working from home. People can give. People are able to meet a lot of challenges. And me as an HR individual have been so impressed when I have checked all those people, how many times they have logged in, how many emails they have corresponded. And people have a well mindset now to work from home. We have been into the situation, and most of those who are working from home felt that it is more stressful and more it lets you to be more productive as well. So yeah, maybe now we are able to balance, we are able to focus, we have our own spot at home, we have scheduled, families are aware when you will be available for them. They know that you are not sitting at home, you are working at home. So you will be not available from 8 to 4 or from 9 to 3 during Ramadan.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's become a norm. And
Yeah.
I think we are living now with that norm, and it become something that we really like, and we are happy that we have experienced this and we are good at this.
Brilliant, brilliant, exactly. I wanted to actually take this thought, and I've seen a question come on the chat, which I think is quite interesting. And this one I'll put to Mona. It's basically saying, well, there's two questions I want to put to you, Mona. One is about how can you tell if you've got the right balance? How can you tell if you're achieving, you know, that correct balance? Because I've seen earlier messages where people saying, oh, I'm too compassionate. I find it hard to be selfish. But then the other question you mentioned that you'd had inquiries from businesses about homeschooling. And I think that's another thing that people want advice on, how to, I mean, my personal experience is with my 8-year-old. I have found it very difficult to sometimes to homeschool him, because it's not an area I'm used to doing. And so any tips as well on how we manage that role of being a teacher during this time. So yes, Mona, can I ask you those questions?
Yes. So how to be a teacher. First of all, I want to go back to, you know, what Hind and also Rafia said with all this new work-life balance, etc. There are everybody has a different style. So if you ask, how do we do this? How do we juggle? There is not one answer. And I think this is something that everybody should really be aware of, that if you put policies in place, we have different styles of working. We also have different styles of communication, like Hind said. And we need to communicate with the people in their language. We need to make sure that they understand. We also need to have that flexibility, if we are in HR, for example, that each person will work differently and each person will be more productive in a different way. So we have people who are morning people. We have people who can work more in the evenings, you know? And so there is not one way to do it, one way to balance, answering your first question, but it is really an individual matter. So when we go in, whether we're working with corporations or with individuals, we always start with self-awareness and look at yourself and what is it that suits your needs? What is it where you are good? What is it that you are good at? And where are you less productive? And then form and plan your day and your workload according to that, your planning. Yeah, so this is really something really important also when it comes to communication. And I want to add to what Hind said, you know, we communicate all the time. We are always communicating. So even if we're at home and not calling our team members or our customers, we are still communicating, because silence is a very, very, very important communicator. Yeah. So that's, and then we have to communicate in their way, whatever suits them. So we need to be flexible. Now, also to what Rafia said before, I have seen that a lot of people have become so creative. There is a lot of creativity because, again, that's going out of your comfort zone. And when you have to do something different, you start thinking about methods that you can do. And I have really seen amazing results of very creative practices being put in place, whether from individuals and how they handle their family life or their work life, or for corporations themselves, how they handle their team and the communication between them.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, actually, because I think we've talked about a lot of the challenges, and we've also talked about some good best practices such as communication, such as flexibility, and, you know, really ensuring that there's, you know, consideration for staff and for each other. But I'm quite curious to now talk about some of the positives that's maybe come out of this, and how, you know, some of the learnings that people have had. My own experience is actually not having to spend 45 minutes commuting in the morning and the evening has been amazing for me, because I've actually, some of you may have heard, there's this British online, you know, TV PE instructor for children, and so me and my kids have been doing like these little 20-minute kind of workouts, and he dresses up, and so I've been doing exercise with my children in the morning, which has been something that I've really valued, and I've managed to gain something out of this experience. So I wanted to ask around if anybody's got positive stories or ideas of suggestions that they would recommend to other people there to take on board, either now or even as they progress through their working career. So I'd love to start. Who can I start with? Hind, do you have any suggestions?
Actually, during these kind of circumstances that we have gone through, I think it's given us an opportunity to reflect and do a lot of things that we've always put it out in the shelf, in the wish list, that we'll come back to it, or we'll explore it later. And we never had the chance, because we were always juggling, like Muna mentioned, and different people juggle differently between your work, your life, and everything. But now that you are sitting at home most of the time, for many of us, I think besides your giving the attention you need for work and giving the attention for your kids' needs for their school and the family attention, I think it's a very good opportunity for us to reflect on our lost hobbies. So many people have found their way through to read books that they never got the chance to finish, or start drawing and painting as a hobby, where they put them into an inner peace. Some people mentioned, even in the chat, I said about yoga. So many people have started taking, doing yoga with themselves or with their families, or even exercise, or watch the movies you've always wanted to watch. It's created a bit more of a me time that was always, many people were complaining that it was missing in our lives. We give our time to the family, we've been giving the time to our work, but we don't have much of me time. So I think if you organize yourself very well by giving your productivity time to the work and to your family, it's very important to give a me time to yourself, because that way you'll find an inner peace, you'll be happier about yourself, and can even, by doing these kind of hobbies and practices, not only you make yourself happy, you start becoming happier by dealing with your work and family. So I think take the opportunity to look at this positively and try to do the things that you've always wanted to do, but you never had the chance to do so. That is one of the positive outcomes from the COVID, I would say.
Definitely, definitely. Rafia, have you got any experiences or any suggestions about new people taking advantage of this?
You come again, Camelia?
No, we were just talking about the fact that through this experience,
yes,
what have been some of the positives? What have some of the things that we can take away from this and learn from?
Yeah, some of the positives that we have went beyond our set of skills and competencies. I have experienced a lot of things that I really didn't think that one day I'll do it. Now, aside from the work, I'm doing a lot of things at home from a technical perspective, you know, connecting some computers, HDMI to the TV, do some plumbing job. So I was really surprised. I've never expected that I'll be able to paint my basement. So I had a place in the basement, and because of that precaution, I was like, no, I don't want to bring someone from outside to do it. Why don't I try doing it? Hind is laughing now. So Hind, we are bankers, and we do a lot of other things, which I was telling my mother, I'm surprised. I got to know that I can do all of these things. Well, I think the positive thing about this circumstances, Camelia, that you are in a situation. And that situation, which Muna have mentioned, Muna, by the way, we need to be very good and close friends nowadays, yeah?
Absolutely, we are already.
Your tips is here, you know? Yeah. We need to be very close friends in setting priorities and all of these things. So Muna have mentioned a very interesting point, and it's the thing that you are able now to work each role in a better form. So when you are a mother, you are playing it in a good, and let us say in a better form. When you are a mother, you are a sister, you are a daughter, or you are a wife, you are able now to differentiate between those different personalities by being all the time the manager, the leader, giving instruction, do, don't. So this pandemic had given us more positive and advantage approach than the normal situation. It's Muna, you need to be out of your comfort zone. Once you are out of your comfort zone, you are able to look into the other part of you as a human, as an individual, as a worker, as a contributor. So I am impressed. I started doing a home gym, which this was a dream. Like, no, I cannot do this alone. I always need partners. I always need someone to push me. I need someone to tell me what to do. No, I start putting, daily exercises. Today I'll do cardio. Today I'll do a bit of shoulders. The other day I'll do this. So you become more focused. Even now, after prayers, after 9, Rafi'a is doing her exercise. So no one is bothering me. Friends, family, even my sister, I'm sending you this. Okay, you are training. Okay, sorry. So it becomes a standard which you set for yourself. It's a schedule. From 9 to 3, I'm working. I'm on my laptop. After that, I have a certain time to do things. After that, iftar. After that, prayer, family time. After that, my time. So
very good.
The advantage of having your schedule in a better form make you as an individual more happy, satisfied. Being outside the comfort zone is one of the main advantages, because it push your creativity. It bring the things which is sitting out there, but you never thought about it. Those online courses, how to achieve certain goals using the digital platform, the technology. So this is basically, I feel the advantages is more. The disadvantage out of this, that we are not into our norm for which we are used to for the past few years.
Yes. Amazing. I love that. Thank you, Rafi'a. So yeah, not only have you taken up, gym, you've been painting yourself. I think what it shows is this amazing resourcefulness that we all have within us, and sometimes we don't push ourselves, and that this is a fantastic opportunity for everybody to try new things. And because we've been pushed into this new change environment, it's allowed us all to be maybe a bit braver and a bit more adventurous. I saw on the chat somebody else has learned carpentry. So I think it's happening everywhere. And Tracy, have you got any stories, or what positives have you found out of this experience over the past couple of months?
Yeah, look, I think there's been many positives. And I think all the studies show, Mona, to your point, that isolation improves creativity, and I think that's what we've seen with a lot of people. And tapping into potential that people didn't realize that they had. It's been a real learning experience. It's really shown us how resilient that, you know, people we can be, how resilient our children are in terms of adaptation. We're leveraging technology much better and much more comfortable with it, and, you know, accessing well-being elements through online to our advantage. So it's really expanding our horizon in a different way. In terms of teams, you know, people are probably making more of an effort to come together and communicate. You know, I have a regular check-in with my team, and it's really just to check in. How are you? Have a coffee together, you know, sort of touch base on things that are not work related. So it's about redesigning your day, redesigning the way that you think and you work. And I think what's really important during this time is not only the physical boundaries, and I was on a really interesting webinar last week with Ali Fenwick, who's done a lot of work in terms of, you know, remote working and the psychology of, you know, of the situation we find ourselves in, but also the importance on mental boundaries and that routine and that structure. And I think that that is what's serving us well, is that we are compartmentalizing our day that works for us. And I think that's the key. It's whatever works for you, and whatever, you know, helps you to maintain your energy and your fulfillment.
Lovely. Mona, what do you think? I saw you writing lots of notes there. In terms of what have you seen, what do you say the real positives are out of this experience that people need to take away?
Like I said before, I think the resourcefulness and the creativity is immense at the moment. And, you know, going back to what Rafia just said about these labels, and if you know, everybody who will see either my business cards or my LinkedIn profile will see that one of my title is actually human being. And we're specializing a lot on children's education, etc. And this is really something that I think every child should pick up, is that he is not categorized and labeled in a certain way. And when we have that, when we don't see ourselves as just carpenter or just whatever we are, then we are much more creative, and we're able to do things that we never thought we could do. You know, like you said, everybody of us are doing things that we never thought we could do earlier. So this is one of the things that I am seeing that people are doing. However, now as parents, and going back to what you asked me before, Camilla, as parents, how we can affect our children more positively, we should be aware that our children are a reflection of ourselves. So whatever we tell them that this is the limit and we cannot do, they will pick up and they will behave accordingly. So if we show them that this is a very negative situation that we're in, a stressful situation, then it will reflect also on their schoolwork, etc. There are a lot of people, like I said before, you know, I have a program that we do at Mind Your Power that is exactly that, taking back your power and understanding that whatever is happening outside, we cannot change. I cannot change where I live. I cannot change where I work. I cannot change if there is a virus or not. But I can change very well how I feel inside of me and how I believe in myself. How much do I believe that I can do or cannot do something? You know, like Henry Ford said, if you believe you can or if you think you can't, you're right in both ways. So give the children this attitude that, yes, they can do that, and don't limit them by saying, oh, you're lazy, for example. Yeah, our signature program that is, I call it hypno-parenting. So I am also a hypnotherapist, and don't be afraid, I'm not going to, you know, do anything to you now, because hypnotherapy is not what people think it is. But it is, the hypno-parenting is actually because I want to really make it clear to parents that they are hypnotizing their children with their behavior and what they say to them. So words are really, really important, going back to communication, Hind. Yeah, very important. How do I communicate? And people are coming and wanting to learn that. So that's a big, big positive that I'm seeing. How can I change myself in order to affect everybody around me positively?
Yeah, lovely. Thank you so much. Well, what I wanted to do was, we're coming up to nearly the finish. I want to finish on one piece of advice from everybody that they can give to our audience that they can take away. And I'll kick off with this. One of the things I think, not through this conversation, I think there's been so many brilliant points that have been made and such really interesting insights. I definitely agree about the communications. Obviously, I specialize in communications, but it's actually more than just doing it for the sake of it. It's actually about really engaging with people, really ensuring that you're listening, ensuring that we're explaining clearly what's happening because of the anxiety that people are feeling. So I do definitely think the more that everybody communicates either in work or at home, it has such positive results. I would also, my other tip would be what I've done is I've tried to, when we talked earlier about compartmentalize, but I've also really kind of tried to delegate a bit more. And what I mean by that is I'm sharing the load more with my husband, because I think he's seeing firsthand, you know, what my world is like, what my work is like, what I'm dealing with, because he's there at home with the children. And I'm so not only with my husband, but I'm also being clever at structuring things like the ordering of the food every week, so that it comes on a certain day and it's a repeat order. So I'm taking some of the small things out of my life to allow me to spend more time doing the good things in my life. So those are a couple of pieces of advice from my side. So next, Hind, do you have any advice or tips that you'd like to leave everyone with?
I would like to share one advice that I'm actually implementing on myself, and it's been working beautifully for the past 1 year I've been doing. Last year I had attended a mindfulness session, and one of the things that I thought about is that the human mind always tries to think more of the negatives and the pessimistic aspects more than the positives. So we as a human beings, we have to force more into how we erode our mind to be more positive thinkers. So I started keeping a journal calling it the happy book. And whenever I did something I was very proud of, like a great achievement, or I had a happy moment that I went through, I started jotting it down and noting it down. And it's remarkable that when you see the pages turning into like big folders and all, you start feeling that you've had such positive accomplishments, achievements, happy moments. And whenever I'm in self-doubt, or I'm in not a happy place, or whenever I am not feeling myself, it's very good then this tool to reflect. I open the journal, I look at some of the accomplishments, some of the happy moments I shared, be it at work or with my friends or with my family. It inserts the confidence back in me. So I would always say that find a way for you to always being focused on the positive self about yourself rather than negative. For me, it was a journal. For you, others should, some people, what they do as well is every night before they go to bed, they start reflecting about their full day, what they've done. And I do it at times. And it tells you like, I did this, it was good, this I could have done better. It's very important for us to keep on self-respecting, reflecting about ourselves, to see what we did good, what we can do better, what things we can improve upon. So that's an advice I would leave with all our participants, trying to find a way to how to think positively about yourself, because that will make you a better person. And being a better person, then you can be better in doing whatever you are, being it socially, with family, or at your work as well.
I love it. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Hind. Wise words there. Very, very good about that self-reflection and reminding ourselves of these great accomplishments we all achieve. Rafia, do you have any advice you'd like to share with everyone?
My advice will be aligned with my great panelist advices. And I would like to say, always look into the bright thing of anything that would happen to you in any situation, in any circumstances. Just look into the bright thing. Change your behavior to think about whatever is happening in a positive manner. Be more structured. And I would like to invite everyone, have a good practice. Share your best practice through social media, through emails. Share it with your friends. Keep everyone updated on what's happening. So when I'm struggling, and Camellia come up with something, Rafia, I'm struggling in that way. So I feel my struggle is even better than what Camellia is struggling with. So this gives you a hidden empowerment, a hidden power, a magic to look into whatever you are facing in a different way. So you say, oh, thanks God, whatever I'm passing through is better than what Camellia is doing. So when Muna start telling me about her challenge, or me telling Muna about my challenge, Muna would look into her challenge in a different behavior. And believe me, there is a positive vibes coming from these thoughts. It might be for Kamila something which is really challenging, but for Rafia, it might be something which is, oh, that's doable, Camellia. Don't look into it from that aspect. So we exchange those experiences. It put us in a way to look into the matter differently, positively. It changed our behavior. There is no chance to look and to compare what happened last month to the month later to last Ramadan. Last Ramadan have its own achievement and set of challenges as well. But since we have overcome it, we don't remember. This Ramadan is different. We had the chance to look into it in a different way, to experience something different, which history will talk about. So be proud, be positive. You are part of that history, which that history will be there in the books in a day. And you will be able to share that experience, how you had handled that situation, how had you handle yourself as an individual to be at your best. I am in the office, I'm into it, I'll go back home, I'll have my other duties to be done, and then I wish everyone the best. I wish everyone to have their own daily schedule, put targets, put goals, put personal goals, change things. Camellia, can you run for 5K? Yes, Rafia, I can. Why don't you try to run for 10K below 1 hour? This is a new goal. This is a new target, which will help you eat healthier, sleep better, mentally, physically, you are fit. You will do it, Camellia. What is your target? My target is before end of June. Okay, let's do it. So Muna might assist you to do this. I might assist you to do this. And this is how it works. You are putting the goal, you are setting goals at an individual level, at a work level. You are busy. You don't have time to think about negativities. You always think, how will I do it? So think positive. This will be.
Thank you, Rafia. Okay, I'm going to have to set my my running challenges, my goals. That's going to be one of my next things. Thank you. That was really good advice. I'm going to turn to Tracy now, if she's got anything that she would like to share as a final word of advice to everyone.
Well, look, I think everything's been said, and I think it just goes back to my point earlier. It's really, there's no benchmark. It's really, how do you design your day that works for you? You know, have you given yourself enough time to do the things that give you energy, that you enjoy? You know, it's not all about work. You know, it could be your family, it could be your friends, it could be your exercise. So it's really taking those moments to reflect and design the day that works for you. And also not be tough on yourself. You know, if you don't feel like doing something one day, it's okay. You can do it the next day. I think that it's really about just making sure that you feel that you are at your best and how you design your day.
Thank you, Tracy. And last but not least, Mona, I would love to hear a word from you on any advice that you might have to give everyone.
Well, I can just second everything that anyone else said already, and that's, you know, positivity, mindfulness, or really focusing on the positives that you are achieving. And also give that same power to your children. So let them focus on the positive things that they are doing and give them that independence and that responsibility of doing it themselves. You are putting more workload and more stress upon you if you want to do their homework, if you want to help them, if you want to help help them get dressed and eat and everything. Let them do it, because that's how they will learn. Yeah. And of course, my biggest piece of advice, like I said before, is be selfish and take care of yourself to reduce the amount of stress that you have within you, because that will also reflect not only on your work capabilities and your thinking capabilities and mental ones, but also on your health. So 3 things: breathe, smile, and laugh. Just laugh. And these 3 things will increase the level of endorphins in your body. And when we have a high level of endorphins, our stress levels will go down and we will be healthier, whether physically or mentally.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everybody. I've seen such incredible response on the chat group that people have really taken a lot of learnings and a lot of positivity out of this session.